moved to 3-0 with a 24-12 win over the Lions. Peyton Manning threw for 324 yards and 2 TDs. It was his 164th career game with multiple touchdown passes. No surprise, that's an NFL record. 2 wins were against playoff teams from last year. Both the Ravens and the Lions were in the playoffs. Skip, did this game end the questions about Peyton Manning? There's been so much speculation about him this season.
Stephen A., silly me, I thought those questions got laid to rest back at Kansas City when Peyton, in the last 2 minutes, 27 seconds, led that team 80 yards in 10 plays, including the 19-yarder to Emmanuel Sanders, that won the football game against their arch rival in one of the loudest outdoor venues in the world. And yet, it seemed like NBC's storyline all last night was, could this be the end? Could this be the end of Peyton? Obviously, Chris Collinsworth said, that's a bunch of baloney. Well, it sure looked like a bunch of baloney to me last night, because clearly Peyton won the power struggle with Gary Kubiak, so they went all shotgun last night. Now they're back to the running game that carried that team. Remember down the stretch last year when Peyton clearly was hurt, starting with that St. Louis game that you've talked about so many times, and then the San Diego game at San Diego. They just ran the heck out of the ball down the stretch, and it carried Peyton through his obvious injuries. Well, now the running game's pretty much disappeared. Now it's all Peyton. 31 out of 42 for 324. I realize it's the Lions, but they just banked another big road win to me. And as Peyton pointed out, it's not the same Lions as last year, but they were in the playoffs. They did lose to my Dallas Cowboys at Jerry World. And the point is, they've beaten Baltimore, even though Baltimore might not be Baltimore. They were a playoff team last year in Kansas City. So they're off to a pretty great start. And Peyton's, look, he looks as effective to me as he has ever looked. I never worried about his arm strength because he never had much to begin with. I don't know what the problem is. He still looks like Peyton Manning to me at age 39.
Skip Bayless, I agree with you, but I totally understand why there are question marks about the Denver Broncos. Over the last 3 years under Peyton Manning, they've been in the top 3 in terms of points scored. Last year, they were the #2 ranked offense in all of football, putting up 482 points. This year, over the first 3 games of all the teams right now that are 3-0, they've got the second least amount of points at 74 to the Carolina Panthers. That's number 1. But also, Denver somewhat reminds me of Baltimore. Certainly Flacco is no comparison to Peyton Manning in my opinion, even though they both have the same amount of Super Bowl victories.
They do.
But the flip side to it is that just like Justin Forsett has lost his game and can't seem to run the football for the Baltimore Ravens, C.J. Anderson ain't doing it for the Denver Broncos.
Is that him or the line?
Well, it could be the line. It could be the line. But at the end of the day, we have to look. We have to look at what you have. Now, the line obviously was formidable. They've changed bodies, like 3 or 4 different dudes on the offensive line. You're absolutely right. So you got to take that. And I appreciate that. Thank you. So you got that going on. But ultimately, at the end of the day, even when there was some question marks due to injuries in the past with the offensive line last year, we looked at a C.J. Anderson. The year before that, it was Monty Ball, and I forgot another name escapes me. I got brain lock right here, right now. But no Sean Moreno. Right. So you've got that going on. So you had all of that. And they were running the ball relatively effectively. That's not happening right now. Okay. But I will say that that's the problem, and I think that's the question mark of why people are looking at Peyton Manning. But I agree with you. I think it's much ado about nothing because he can still do it. The biggest what I took from last night's game, the Detroit Lions. It was a competitive game, 14-12 at one point, and I still wasn't interested, and I couldn't figure out why. And then, bam, it hit me. And Ndamukong Suh being gone from that defense, that mystique is gone. They're ranked 25th defensively, 27th against the pass, 20th against the rush. Nothing nasty at all about their defense. That's a problem. That in combination, there is just... Megatron is no longer Megatron.
Not that guy.
He's not that guy. We've been talking about Dez Bryant, Antonio Brown, Demaryius Thomas, Julio Jones. We used to put Charles Johnson, Megatron, in that category. He was #1.
Well, he was the guy.
And I'm saying,
I loved watching
I'm in no way saying that he's finished. I am saying that the first 3 games of this season has told us that he is out of that category.
You know, I've come to the belief that Megatron made Matt Stafford. And I didn't used to think that, but Matt Stafford could just fling it up in the air.
He looks ordinary now. Yeah, he looks ordinary now.
All right, moving on, you guys. You mentioned Miami. Buffalo crushing their AFC rival Miami on their home turf. Up next, we're going to discuss that. That seat is getting hot down there in Miami for Joe Philbin. Will they be calling for his job? We'll tell you if it's on the line. That's coming up next on First Take. Dolphins lost their most lopsided home opener in team history, losing 41-14 to the Bills. This coming on the heels of a 23-20 loss to the Jaguars. That was in Week 2. Here is head coach Joe Philbin after the loss.
The third game of the season. I mean, I wish we were playing better, but we are what we are right now. We're going to take a look at the tape and, look into everything we're doing and make decisions that can help us become better quicker. I mean, there's no magic potion. I wish if I had a magic potion, I would have brought it out earlier. Going into the game, we were 5th in the NFL in scoring defense. Obviously, we're not going to be that coming out of the game. And we didn't play very well on defense today whatsoever, and we have to do better.
Stephen A., is it time for Philbin to go?
Yes, it is. It's not something that I like to say. I'm sure that the man is knowledgeable about the game of football. I'm certainly not qualified to debate X's and O's and to dissect him to the degree that, I'm qualified to sit there and say he's incompetent. I certainly would not. I'm not accusing Joe Philbin of that. What I'm saying is that he's not inspirational. He doesn't inspire. This team has never been 8-8 under his stewardship. This is his 4th season. He was 7-9 the first year, 8-8 the second year, 8-8 the third year, and now here they are. They have looked bad all 3 games, including their opening victory of the season against the Redskins. I just look at him. They're uninspiring at all. Now, everybody's been pointing the finger at Ndamukong Suh. I see effort. I see him I'm seeing him get double-teamed. I'm seeing him get triple-teamed. I thought Cameron Wake would do a better job playing alongside him on the line. That isn't taking place, and they absolutely positively can't defend against the run because they're ranked 30th in rushing. And Tyrod Taylor and those boys did their thing. But Philbin got out-coached yesterday. Rex Ryan, and they just confused him. They ran the ball when he thought they would pass. When he thought they would pass, they passed the ball when he thought they would run. And Philbin just seems to be anemic, just totally lifeless when it comes to really inspiring these guys to play some daggone football. And that's a very, very big thing in the sport of football. It can't just be about X's and O's. You watch Bill Belichick. He seems to speak these guys' language or get them to speak his.
I agree.
Philbin doesn't do that. There are some people who are meant to be coordinators. That is Joe Philbin. He needs to go. They need a new head coach, and they don't need to wait until the end of this season. Stephen Ross, who had Warren Buffett in attendance with him when they were down 27-0 in the first half and let the Buffalo Bills pile up 200 yards in the first quarter, he needs to get a new coach quick, fast, and in a hurry.
I agree with you. They were also fortunate to virtually steal Game 1, the Week 1 at Washington with a 4th quarter punt return. Remember that?
That's
17-10. I'm going to go to the quarterback too, because I do blame Philbin somewhat for hitching his star in that franchise to Ryan Tannehill. And I've told you since before the draft, I don't love him. I'm not sure he's going to lead you to any promised lands anywhere. Yesterday, his QBR scale 0 to 100 was 12. Tyrod Taylor's was 95.
Yes.
Now, they ran into a Buffalo buzzsaw that is going to buzz through a lot of people this year, except for the New England Patriots. But in this case, they gave up, that defense, anchored by Suh, gave up 428 yards and 41 points. But meanwhile, Tannehill doesn't help you because he throws 3 interceptions. So
first half.
Yeah, and you're going to lose. You're going to lose. You're going to get blown out at home if you're going to throw 3 first half interceptions in your home opener. The handwriting is all over the stadium wall that it's time for Philbin to go. But I thought it was before this year even started.
You did, and the bottom line is this. South Beach and the folks down there in Miami don't want him there. Let's just call it what it is. You got to speak folks' language. You've got to vibe. You've got to represent the franchise in a fashion that will galvanize dudes to want to come and play for you. And Ndamukong Suh is being double and triple teamed, Skip. I'm not saying he's flawless by any stretch. He only got 3 tackles on the season. I mean, come on now. But the fact of the matter is that he needs some help.
Yep.
And he ain't getting it.
No.
7-year playoff drought down there in Miami. You know who really loved this one? Charles Clay and and Richie Incognito, I'm sure. Extra sweet for them. Baseball became baseball for the Nats yesterday as Bryce Harper and Jonathan Papelbon got into it. Big deal, no deal. Wow. We'll discuss that next.